Yeah, but I mean, when I do the dishes at home,
Yeah.
right, I need to see a bit of that. Otherwise, I don't think
You don't think they're clean.
it's not clean. The plate's not clean unless. So I get it. I totally get it. Basically.
Hello and welcome to Women and Wellbeing with me, Natalie Anderson. In today's episode, we're talking how our hormones affect our hair as we age and what's next for the hair care industry with Windle Lab founder Paul Windle. So sit back, relax, and get ready to join us in our conversation.
Vidal Sassoon was an icon.
Yeah.
And really invented. I was literally talking to someone this morning about Sassoon and Mary Quant.
Yeah.
And the combination of the two of them, and these geometric lines, the way women started to change. They were no longer leaving home just to get married. They were getting jobs. They were, getting their own place. There's a big social change going on in the 60s. They needed a haircut that would look cool and last for, several weeks. Hence that whole kind of movement was born, And I became really interested in this technical haircutting that I was taught when I went there.
Hello all, I hope you're all well. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by one of the leading voices in hair care, Paul Windle. With over 35 years experience in the industry, building multiple cult hair care lines, including Bumble and Bumble, Paul is renowned for his expertise, in-depth knowledge and complete transparency when it comes to hair care. Turning his back on the large-scale corporate approach, Paul has poured his passion for putting the customer first into creating products using the purest ingredients and developed a hair care range that's not only sustainable, but is rooted in quality over quantity. Knowing the connection between hair and confidence, Paul dedicates his expertise to helping people get the best from their hair, particularly in midlife. It gives me great pleasure to welcome him today. Hello, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
I mean, we just had a very brief conversation just before we started recording about the whole concept of quality over quantity. Tell me why that's so important to you.
I think because we've had the salon for 37 years and we're facing people every day and dealing with them. And we've had clients that have been coming to us for that long.
Wow.
So for me, it's very much about them and their hair. And, it's the face-to-face thing, essentially. And so we see them coming back and we see how their hair's responding to what we're doing.
And it's kind of such a personal relationship. My dad was a hairdresser for many years when I was younger. And that's the one thing kind of that I always looked at was that very personal relationship between the stylist and the customer. And there is a lot of trust towards you, isn't there?
There is. And there's also, I think, a great deal of responsibility for us. When you're dealing with someone's appearance, especially now in this day and age, how important it is. We take very seriously what we're doing, and we take a lot of time to spend with our customers. First of all, actually listening to them, finding out where they're at and what their vision, their aspiration is. Something I love to do as well at the end is to one of my classic lines is, pretend I'm not here now, and you got home, and you're doing the hair in at home. Please tell me if there's anything you'd like to tweak or adjust once you've got your own hands in the hair. And I think almost every single person that comes to a hair salon will nip off and have a little tweak. So I would say, okay, do the little tweak now. Let me have a look.
Yeah.
And then maybe I can just do things around your hands.
That is so lovely because that is so true. I mean, I'm terrible with my hairdresser. I'm like, I'm so sorry. They've just done it. And I'm like, can I just straighten the front bit just differently how I want it? And it's such a personal thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is. And it's also, I think, quite connected to the subconscious. I've seen clients say, well, my hair does this. And I'm looking at it thinking, well, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't seem to. Once their hands are in it, they just move it, and it's very subconscious. So those hands are a key part. I always think, you could be a milliner, you could make a beautiful hat.
Yeah.
But if you place it on someone's head, no matter how good you were at making hats, they adjust it.
Tilt it, definitely.
Exactly.
I mean, where did your love of like hair first start? How did you get into the industry?
Oh, I think when I was growing up, I was a bit sort of, when you first start going out, and you want to look good, and I was trying to do my own hair all the time, trying to get that right, and then that became interesting. Now, I guess it was a period in time where, guys were starting to wear their hair a bit longer as well, and I think it probably came from, getting ready to go out, meet my mates, that sort of thing.
Well, my dad was very much like Tony Manero, so he was kind of had that whole John Travolta thing, and I think that's where his interest started, was there, because it wasn't something necessarily that was like a career vocation at school. And so how did you go to college? What were the next steps for you?
Well, I actually wanted to travel, and my uncle had told me about a great time he'd had in Jersey, in the Channel Islands. And so I went to Jersey. And I'd left school. I hadn't got any qualifications. I was sort of, trying to get a job there. And I remember going to, there was a nightclub there called Lords, that was it. And I kept getting turned down. I couldn't get in, basically. And I kept dressing up, trying to think I was cool, and I couldn't get into it. And I was getting my hair cut one day, and this hairdresser just arrived in town, and he sort of seemed to know everyone, and he was like, he said, I'm going off to Holland next, and then I might be going to America. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, that sounds like, and he was getting invited to all the parties. So I was like, there you go. So I think he sort of influenced me. And then I thought, right, I'm going to go to London. And I think I knew someone who trained in London. Right. That's right. I met someone who trained in London who was from up north, from Penrith. Yeah. And she said, I trained at Vidal Sassoon.
Yeah.
And so I ended up training there, basically, and doing a course there. Yeah.
And in terms of like when you graduated, you qualified, the hair industry, it's in London in particular, in that scene at around that time. I mean, that must have been absolutely epic for you.
Vidal Sassoon was an icon.
Yeah.
And really invented. I was literally talking to someone this morning about, Sassoon and Mary Quant.
Yeah.
And the combination of the two of them, and these geometric lines, the way women started to change. They were no longer leaving home just to get married. They were getting jobs. They were, getting their own place. All of those things. So there's a big social change going on in the 60s when Vidal was. And so people couldn't go and sit under the hood dryer 3 times a week. Yeah. They needed a haircut that would look cool and last for, several weeks and so on. And hence that whole kind of movement was born, and I became really interested in this technical haircutting that I was taught when I went there.
And in terms of then like moving forward, like getting your own salon and starting businesses, where did the journey then take you?
Well, I opened my salon, which initially was a bit of a disaster. I think the first Saturday we opened, not one client came in. I opened it in, which is now seen as quite a buzzy part of Covent Garden, between Neil and Endell Street in Shorts Gardens. But at the time, it wasn't. There was some really cool one-off shops doing very interesting things, but it didn't have, the footfall it has now. And so, but I thought, well, I'd like to get my own shop. I'd like to get that going, and just started pretty much from scratch, basically. And
so obviously now you've grown in, like you said, 37 years now. You've had the salon, and you were responsible for companies such as Bumble and Bumble. I mean, talk to me about that experience as well. Like, what was that like?
Well, Bumble was started in the United States, actually by originally a British hairdresser, Michael Gordon, and essentially before that. I guess around the time I'd opened the salon, and probably because we weren't doing super well, Well, first of all, we were doing photo shoots, and there was a brand called Phytology, a French pharmacy brand, and we were using this product called Phytoplage. And I got chatting to them. I was just shipping it over from Paris, and I got chatting to them, and they said, would you be interested in getting our product going in the UK? And so I started working originally with Patrick Allers, who was an amazing, fascinating man. He was Brigitte Bardot's hairdresser.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
And he invented that kind of the thing that's very popular these days is curtain bangs with the kind of fringe, should I say, with the with his crown, and what he called the look of the emancipated woman. And so while Vidal and Sassoon were doing these very geometric cuts, Alice and some of the French hairdressers were doing these loose, kind of a little bit more hippie, I guess, type of look over there. So I was actually, fortunate to spend a bit of time with him and learn about how he approached hair products. And he was a salon, and he started to make them. And he told me this amazing story about he started making them in his garage, and he used to put tape on the inside of his hand because his hands would get sore putting the lids on the bottles,
Yeah.
And I think that excited me about the idea of making them, really making stuff for your customer. It's almost a bit like, I guess, almost like a farmer's market, or what I like to call like the microbrewery of hair, really. And that's what we've ended up being. Just moving back a little bit, and when I did started working with Phytology, then I got in. I made contact with Michael Gordon in New York, and then he asked me if I would like to build Bumble in the UK. So we started developing the brand in the UK and got it going there.
And then moving forward, as you say, into distribution and what you've built now. I mean, for you, the products that you've built came from listening to your customers. What were the biggest things that your customers were saying to you, and how have you developed the products listening to them?
First of all, I sort of thought, does the world need another bottle of shampoo, really?
Yeah.
Could we make a difference? And if we were going to make a difference, how would we do it? And that's when my team at the salon started working. We started working with some independent chemists. And Barbara, she has a company called Organatural, and she's into organic, sustainable skincare. I met her socially, and I was asking her if she knew any people that would do hair, and she said, "Well, I think I could have a go at working on your shampoos and conditioners, And so she was the first person we started to work with. But then it was this collaboration between a group of hairdressers with all their experience and someone. I mean, Barbara actually literally came into the salon, and she would do shampoos, and we would talk to the customers, so we would really connect with everyone and find out what they were. But our first shampoos, for instance, didn't lather because we use a very gentle surfactant.
Right.
The surfactant is the cleanser. It's the thing that cleans your hair. In fact, what we found was that a lot of customers didn't feel their hair was clean.
Yeah.
So we had to get around that and figure out, okay, people need some foam. They've been educated to want a bit of foam. But, with shampoo, really, foam's not always your friend. It can often be, shampoos can be too strong. And that was one of the things that we noticed, that people were using shampoo and over-cleansing, I mean, our surfactant is so gentle. We make a couple of shower gels for spa and yoga centers and so on, and we use the same surfactant on the shampoo as we do actually in the skin products. Now, I challenge most people to wash their skin with shampoo. You're probably going to find it's going to be quite strong. So gently cleansing was a key thing for us, when we first started working with our clients,
Really interesting as well about how you would think that if you get a really good lather, that's, you hear it all the time, I've got clean hair, I must have clean hair.
Yeah, but I mean, when I do the dishes at home, right, I need to see a bit of that. Otherwise, I don't think...
You don't think they're clean.
It's not clean. The plate's not clean unless... So I get it. I totally get it, basically. The more gentle you can cleanse your hair, the better. In fact, one tip, whatever you're using, is diluted a bit. So don't add more shampoo, add more water. And often you
Right.
can get some nice foam doing it that way. It should just be on the cusp of, yes, this is now it feels like it's cleaning my hair, but not over cleansing, you know. It can create a rebound effect as well, where your scalp starts to produce more oil.
Right.
And what can happen then is a lot of people will say, "Oh, I've got greasy hair," and when my hair feels greasy, what am I going to do? I'm going to shampoo more, and when you shampoo more, the scalp reacts more and produces more of the natural oil sebum and so on and so forth.
Because that is so true. Like that is the one thing that really stresses me out myself is that I'll go to the salon and I come home and I'm like, oh, my hair is so clean. And no matter how hard I try at home, I never seem to get the same feeling when I'm at home. And is it because, well, I'm using something that's too strong maybe, or like you say, I'm just not doing it correctly? Because there's also that as well. Is it the way that you shampoo your hair?
I'm a massive believer in giving your scalp a really good scrub.
Right.
Now, people, especially people who think their hair's gone a bit fine, will go a bit gentle. There are all these different instruments you can get now to do this, but actually the fingertips are just great. And what happens is you can really improve the circulation. And when you're shampooing, focus on the scalp. Don't really shampoo the hair. The hair doesn't need lots and lots of cleansing, actually. Focus on the scalp. Give it a really good scrub. We use teas as well. We brew the teas in the lab, and we add a number of teas like green tea, yerba mate tea, rooibos tea, white tea, green coffee, and the antioxidants are great for the scalp. But again, focus on the scalp when you're shampooing. Because it is really, that's the main thing, is to really give that scalp a good cleanse. And then just rinse. And the shampoo coming down the hair shaft will make it nice and just clean enough, basically.
That is really interesting about the tea as well, and how that can stimulate growth and like circulation. In terms of as we get older, this is one of the biggest things for women, post 40. The thinning of hair and the texture and how it feels coarse. I mean, I'm noticing it already. Like my hair is completely different to how it was when I was young, and I long for my long, gorgeous hair. But why does that happen, and what can we do to combat it?
Well, again, it's a number of things. But one of the things is circulation.
Right.
And what you can do, I think sauna's great. If we just get away from the product kind of thing, just for a minute, just personal habits.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, a really vigorous shampoo. If you think of this area here, it's an extreme. It's a long way. And if anything happens within the body that's changing, it's the last thing to get the blood. Because at the end of the day, the blood and everything that's in your blood is what's keeping your body sustained, essentially. So it will pull back. Inversions are great, even just putting your head down, and just getting some blood there. In fact, people will say the hair always grows a lot thicker through the neck here. That's because there are far more blood vessels there.
Right.
So your hair comes from your blood, basically. And another thing is what's in your blood as well. A clinic that I've worked with sent us a little blood test that's really good. And one of the things is serum ferritin, which, I'm not a chemist, but basically it's your body's ability to store and utilize iron. So you could be taking loads and loads of iron, but if your serum ferritin is low, that can cause it as well. And these things often happen through, when you're going through changes and so on. So, postpartum and menopause.
That is so interesting. I'm anemic, so I'm terrible with iron, and it's always my hair that, like, when I had my son, it fell out in lumps, and it's definitely now, as I'm starting this kind of perimenopausal transition, that's what I'm seeing is, and it's not, it doesn't, so it's kind of not necessarily the iron, it's how you retain the iron.
Is your body using it and retaining it, basically. And once again, you can have a wonderful amount of iron in your blood, but is the blood getting to to this area as well?
Yeah.
Which is why, and again, obviously things such as exercise, get exercise, just getting hot. As I was saying before, I think sauna's really good.
Yeah.
as I was saying before, inversions and just good massage. And I think that's often, when you say you go to the salon, your hair feels wonderful because they've given you a really good shampoo when
I
you've
get
been
the
at the salon.
massage as well, like the pressure points. Is it the Indian head massage that look at me now touching my head like this?
Yeah, I mean we use a Japanese shiatsu based. In fact, Lisa, who works at the salon, she teaches our trainees, and they in Japan they actually have a competition. Like we have the hair awards.
Yeah.
They have a competition for best head massage, and I think Lisa was a judge on those awards.
Yeah.
So she trains our guys how to hit these pressure points and how to massage the scalp correctly.
That's incredible. And so obviously that's going to promote hair growth. In terms of the coarseness though, and like the texture changing, is that the same? Is it to do with the blood? And how do we combat that?
Well, once again, your natural oil sebum, that can decrease. Obviously, also the diameter of the hair. A lot of people think that they're losing hair, when in actual fact, when we look closely, we can still see hair growing, but it's much finer. So it's the hair density. Right. We've actually just developed a density cream that you massage 3 times a week after shampoo and condition, and you just massage it into those areas. And we're not trying to make hair grow back and offer these miracle hair growth products, but actually things that will improve the density of the hair itself.
Because I think that's one of the biggest things is when you start to get to this point in life and you can see these changes. And as you said right at the very beginning, the responsibility of the stylist with the customer, of the way it makes you feel, your hair it's just massive, isn't it? It can change so much of how you see yourself.
It's really important. For some time, I probably thought, oh gosh, I'm a hairdresser. It's quite funny because you can be out and you can be somewhere and you can meet someone and they say, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I have a tendency not to say, oh, I'm what's the word everyone loves to use these days? I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm whatever. And I just say I'm a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And sometimes people respond and go, oh. A little bit like, what do you say?
Yeah.
When someone says that they're a hairdresser, and I think a lot of people think it's quite a trivial thing.
Yeah.
But it's actually not. I absolutely love sitting on the desk and hosting people coming to the salon, and obviously we have a retail area, and people are often asking about products and how to use them and so on. And I love advising people. But one of the things that's so much fun is seeing people coming in. They can often look a bit stressed or maybe in a rush to get to their appointment.
Yeah.
They go down into we have this kind of like this shampoo beds with this massage area, where they get their hair washed. They come up, and you can see they're really relaxed. Then the stylist does their thing, and their hair looks fabulous as they're leaving. And to see people just transformed and be smiling and happy and chatting, as they leave, and sometimes, people can be hanging out with us. We have this table in the reception area, and we're just sort of hanging, chatting, and it's very nice to watch that transformation.
It's quite a sacred space, though, isn't it? It's like, I think it was really apparent in the pandemic when people couldn't go to the hairdresser, and then when they were allowed to go back, I know personally, I nearly cried sitting in that chair just to feel like somebody could look after you.
Yeah, and also I think now, because of the way we're connected so much digitally, there aren't so many places where we physically come together, and to sit in the chair and have that one-to-one connection, but also to sit with others. I mean, I love watching clients chatting to each other as well in our reception area. And often they're saying, "Oh, I love your hair; it looks really good," and you're kind of making new friends. It's a lovely social environment. And a safe one,
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's quite sacred. It's very safe. And in terms of, like you just mentioned there, social media, there's a lot of noise out there, isn't there? On Instagram and TikTok and everything. And, misinformation misinformation as well. I mean, does that ever frustrate you? Do you ever get to see things and you think that's not true, or you're just trying to sell something, or you're doing the hard sell? Does it ever kind of get on your nerves a bit?
I think social media is great.
Right.
Because I think it's informing people.
Right.
But I think we always need to be vigilant about our source of information.
Mm-hmm.
And also sometimes look a little deeper.
Yeah.
And I think we get these soundbite ideas. A classic one is ingredients. And, people will say, oh, I just read that ingredient isn't good, et cetera,
Yeah.
But often making hair products is a bit like cooking. If you use a lot of a certain item, it may not be good. But under a certain level, it could be. And, and we came across a couple of things, because what we're really doing is we're combining some really lovely oils that actually are often really too expensive to mass produce.
Yeah.
And they really feed the hair. So some really nice actives that really feed the hair. And some oils, like, for instance, there's one product we have, and it contains monai oil,
Yes.
which is an extraction from the gardenia petal.
Yes.
And basically, it's very, very light, and the hair really does absorb it. It's not just things such as coconut oil that can be quite heavy. People think oils are quite heavy, but in actual fact, many of them can be very useful. But again, I think getting back to what we're saying about misinformation, it can be methods of manufacture and the level. I mean, put it this way, if you drink too much water,
Yeah.
it will be very bad for you.
Yeah.
And so it is about quantities and not just the item itself. And I think that's where maybe someone will read something on social and they go, oh God, I've just read that's really not good.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, below a certain level, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly healthy. It's stabilizing the product. It's doing a good job. And I think that's where one needs to be able to, if you're going to look into things, maybe, dig a bit deeper and find out a bit more information. That's the only thing I would say, because often these things are not quite as simple as they may seem in a quick couple of lines.
Before we have to finish up, just hair care for some people can be considered a luxury. And it's funny because we'll spend a lot of money on our skin and, we'll spend a lot of money on clothes often. But hair sometimes I think is overlooked. If somebody didn't want to necessarily spend a lot on hair, what are the things that they really need to be looking for? Like if they were going to go just buy off the shelf or something, what should they avoid?
I don't think it's an easy answer,
right,
to answer exactly what you're saying, like look out for this. I mean, we've not been using things such as parabens for over a decade.
Yeah.
Sodium lauryl sulfate is is quite a strong detergent. It's actually often used in household cleaning things such as dishwasher tablets, etc. So maybe that's not the best one. But again, even if it's in the product, dilute it, and so on. And I'm a bit of I'm not so keen. A lot of products have propylene glycol,
right?
And that's besides it not being good for marine life. It can have a certain type of drying effect on the hair.
Yeah, it feels like it's stripping it in some capacity.
Well, it's a carrier, but it can
Right.
carry both ways.
Right.
Essentially, that's probably the simplest way of describing it. So we're constantly trying to make the chemistry side of what we're doing cleaner. Look, we don't go out to the forest and pick the bottles of shampoo off the trees. That's not how it works. You need chemistry.
Yeah.
For us to be able to do it. But it's just the clean chemistry, but also the way these things are put together. And that's a key thing. If you isolate one thing and say it's wrong, but if you put it with something else and something else and something else, the combination can work super well. And then there's the method, like for instance, when Michelle's working and she's making the products up in the lab, we were up there recently and someone said to her, how long do you brew the tea for? you know.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I just put it on, I brew it while I'm doing this and this and this and this. So it is literally like a kitchen, like she's cooking. And we figured out it's sitting there for quite a few hours, you know, so the tea gets infused before she adds it, basically, you know.
But that means then every customer of yours, you know, that's taking home one of your products knows that it's been brewed with love, it's been made with love, and it works as well, you know, hence the reason you've got a salon that you've had for 37 years. Paul, we have run out of time today, but it has been absolutely wonderful to have you with me. I feel like I've learned so much, so thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to find out more about Windle, you can visit the website at www.windlelondon or follow them on Instagram at Windle London. For more women's health and lifestyle, you can visit us at our website, www.thecapsule.co.uk. You can also catch up with our previous podcast episodes by visiting the podcast page and subscribing to any of our podcast channels and YouTube. Please feel free, as always, to leave your rates and reviews, as we'd love to hear from you as the series goes on. You can also drop us a message at our Instagram at officialcapsule if you'd like to put any questions to our future guests or leave a message about any of our current episodes. I will be back next week with another very special guest, but today all that's left for us to say is goodbye. So it's goodbye from Paul.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. And I'm sure you get this all the time, but I just need this on camera. Do you get told you look like David Beckham?
It does seem to happen. Yeah. Which, yeah,
I always find it
a great compliment. Thank you.
I had to get that in. Thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.